Okay, so we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is 7:36, January 23rd, 2018. As we were talking about, our agenda's a little altered with Jonathan not being here, as well as Interim Associate Dean and Director of the Graduate School, Dr. Wallace, isn't going to be here. We do still have the presentation on the proposed tuition and fee increase that we'll do, and if we can, we'll just move that to the top of the agenda. So can I get a motion and approval for doing that to move straight to the presentation?
Motion.
Second. All in favor? Excellent. All right, so the presentation for tuition and fee proposal increase. We have Executive Director for Administration and Finance, Judy Marshall here, and Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, Lori Stetler. Now I'll turn it over to them with that introduction.
Sure. Thanks for having us. We really appreciate it. We're here tonight to talk to you about the fee schedule and where we're going with that, and to give you, we're going to talk a little, give you an opportunity to ask questions and answer anything that you would like to share with us. And so I'm going to turn it over to Judy and let her talk to you about the fees and where we're going with them.
Actually, I'll start with tuition.
Oh, you're going to, okay.
I'll start with tuition. The way the tuition and fee process works regarding the Board of Trustees and us taking proposals to them is it's a two-step process. One board meeting, we present our general thoughts of what we're proposing and the reasoning for that. We also give them usually different options to look at and how that might affect revenue and other things like that. And that happened actually at the December meeting, which was on the Carbondale campus. And then the following meeting, which is February 8th at Edwardsville, we will take a formal board matter to the Board of Trustees, and at that time they'll vote on tuition and fees for the next academic year. So when we went in December and spoke to the board, we actually proposed at that day an 8.5% tuition increase for graduate students in the professional schools. Subsequent to that, we have done additional analysis and reconsidered that, and now we will be proposing a 2% increase. We would very much like to have no increases, but the reality is costs do continue to go up. So for undergraduates, the professional schools, including law, and the graduate tuition, we're going to propose a 2% increase that would be effective next fall. That approximates the current rate of inflation. It's a little less than inflation. In reality, about 90% of tuition for the doctoral level students is waived from fellowships or assistantships, and about 2/3 of the tuition at the master's level is waived. Now, I do recognize that leaves a population of students who will be paying the increase, but we felt like that was the fairest thing we could do to help the finances a little bit, and the 8.5% was going to be prohibitive, so we definitely backed off on that, and I'm sure the board will be much happier to see the 2%. So that's, as I said, same as we propose for undergraduates. So any questions about tuition?
I do have a question.
Yes.
So how did you come to those numbers?
The 2%, it basically is the inflation rate. The general consumer inflation rate currently is running about 2.2% in the United States. So we were just trying to cover the, gasoline fluctuates, utilities fluctuate, those type of things. It's not one specific thing, but just try to keep pace with expenses. General operating expenses. It's not earmarked for any particular projects or things like that.
Judy, this might be a question that some of our constituents have. If they came in on a previous year, I know some might think that they're at a fixed kind of rate. So will this also impact those that, like all graduate students?
Yes, it will be all graduate students. The fixed rate applies to undergraduate students, and the state of Illinois has a guaranteed tuition program for undergraduates only, and that rate's fixed for 4 years at the rate you came in as a freshman or transfer, as the case may be, and then subsequent to that, if you're still here in year 5, you pay the rate that was in effect of the class that followed you in. But that is not a program for graduate students.
Gotcha. And with this increase also, how is that I guess, how would that impact our international students, or have there been any conversations about, because I know that they already are,
2.5 times
yeah.
the rate, unless there's a memorandum of understanding or some other type of agreement. In reality, there are quite a few of those in place. Also 2% increase.
Okay. And I don't know why, I was under the impression that the law school, I don't know if it's in their fees, but they actually would see a little bit more of a bump than the general.
That'll be the fees.
Fees, okay.
Yeah. Regarding the fees, for the third year, we're not going to increase any of the mandatory fees. So that's the good news. And I have some more good news for some of you, but it won't be good necessarily for all of you. What we are proposing to do, rather than increase fees, we're not going to do that at all, is change the way we charge them. Currently, we have 16 mandatory fees. There's one that graduate students don't pay. That's called the student-to-student grant. So the graduate students have 15 mandatory fees, and right now 3 of them are uncapped, 4 are flat rates, 2 of those are refundable, and 9 fees are capped at 12 hours per semester. So we have kind of a confusing, discombobulated mess of how we assess fees, and it's just evolved that way over time. So the Edwardsville campus took the lead on this and went to the board back in September, and they proposed rolling all the fees up into one consolidated fee that will be called a general student fee. So they talked that up, and the board was receptive to it, so we took a look at that as well. So what I did was I took every fee, some of them were per credit hour, so I looked at how much 1 credit hour for those was. We also had a flat rate for the student health service, the door, or not the door fee, but the fee that allows you to use the health service to see the doctors and nurses and that thing. That was a flat rate at $2.19 a semester, no matter how many hours you took. So I divided that by 12 and converted that to a per semester rate. And we did that with everything with the exception of the student-to-student grant, which is $3 a semester, and you guys don't pay it anyway, and the health insurance fee, which we're using, and Lori can speak to this in greater detail than me, but we're using a third party for that now, Aetna, and we basically pass through the rate that they charge us, and they charge us based on claims experience. And right now they're in the process of evaluating that for a rate for next academic year, and what we're hearing right now is not real positive because we've had very high claims experience, and I don't know if they've shared a number with you.
They haven't shared a number with me yet. I'm expecting to get that by the end of the week, but it's based on our claim loss ratio, and you guys, GPSC was one of the driving factors in us going out to bid to get a good insurance policy with a third-party vendor, and so that has provided great coverage, and so students are using it. And this past fall, we had at least 2 very serious accidents involving students who were covered under that insurance fee, and so we've had a high claim ratio there. And so they're evaluating now, and we will know probably in the next 3 or 4 days exactly, pretty close to what that fee is going to be for next year. But we're expecting an increase in that, and it's based on the medical rate of inflation as well as our loss claim ratio.
So I cannot tell you tonight what that's going to be because we don't know, but we do expect it will go up. But for the rest of them, I did my little math exercise. I added them all up, 1 credit hour, then added up current rates to $117.07. So I thought, let's not mess with the 7 cents. So the general student fee that you will see on your bill starting next fall will be $117 a credit hour. So if you're taking 6 hours, you're going to actually see a decrease in your fee bill of $225.96. Reason being that health insurance, health service fee is no longer a flat rate, but it is the $219 divided by 12, so if you're not taking the 12 hours, you won't pay as much. So 6 hours, you'll save about $225. If you're taking 9 hours, it'll be around $110. If you're taking 12 hours, it's going to be $1.04 because that's the 7 cents coming off, so that's going to be basically the same. But if you're in 15 hours, like I believe most law students are, it will cost you about $380 more for the year by uncapping the fees. So some will benefit, probably most graduate students that aren't in the professional school of law will either see no increase or most likely a decrease, perhaps if you're 9 hours, but if you're taking 15, it's gonna cost you a little bit.
So I do have a question on that. So we
Yeah.
still allocate out on our bills, on the bills that itemize
No.
what those will be?
No, but we'll have a link to someplace that does that. We're not trying to hide it, we're not changing any of them, and we're always going to be very transparent about showing this much goes to athletics, this much goes to IT, this much
Okay,
goes.
yeah.
It'll still be available. We haven't decided exactly how many places and how we're going to show that, but we indeed will.
So would that be something, that link, would that be made available, say, to GPSC? Maybe that would be something we could put on our website?
Oh, absolutely,
Absolutely.
yes.
Thank you.
Yes. We can put it anywhere that we think is helpful for people to find it. We're in no way trying to hide it. We're just trying to standardize, consolidate. When you go and look at many other schools, you see a general fee, because I've done research trying to see, well, how much does so-and-so charge for athletic fee? And often you can't tell, because it's
Right.
buried within a lot of other fees.
Well, I don't remember.
But we're not trying to
what
bury.
states, but certain states have legal standards on what you have to like actually itemize out to
Yeah.
show the fees. So I
Yeah,
just
and we
wondered.
have checked that.
Okay.
And on the bills, we don't have to, but we fully intend to continue to do that. It's not an exercise to try to hide anything at all. Just to simplify the bill, I have examples of bills where the list, and then there's course fees and, on and on and on, so.
Since
Yes,
it's a flat rate, will you still be able to opt out of the insurance?
yes.
Okay.
And we're going to show that one separate, and if you were an undergrad, the student-to-student separate, because they are refundable.
Okay.
So I don't want to get them in the mix and confuse things, but yes, that won't change. Yes.
So, other than the health center, what are the other flat fees that will be?
The other flat fees was the student attorney fee. Say we had 4 of them, the student-to-student grant, student attorney fee, the health insurance, and the health facility fee. So the 2 health fees were flat. Yeah, those were the 4.
So then only the health fees and the attorney would be the ones that would be changing, I guess. in
Yes,
our
yes,
bills.
because you don't pay the student-to-student. Yes, that's
So
correct.
has anyone in the health center been contacted, had any input on this? Because I'm assuming they would decrease their budget.
Well, no, not necessarily.
No?
No, but yes, they've worked with us through this. We've ran all the scenarios, and we don't anticipate that it will decrease their budget.
Okay, great.
It's going to be a big help to student legal services because it's been flat for so many years, and with everything, costing so much more, and insurance and benefits and everything, we've been really, really tight over there, and we've actually been holding a position vacant because we haven't been able to fill it. So we're hopeful that this is going to mean that we'll have even better service in that office.
Is it going to affect the copay when you go visit
No.
the doctor?
No, it will not change the front door fee.
Going back to the initial, the 2% raise,
Mm-hmm.
so if that does get passed, will there be an increase in grad assistant pay?
That is
I mean,
not,
if we go-
well, yeah, that
Yeah.
is probably something that is negotiated through your contract, and I'm not involved in that piece. That would be Dr. Dalala.
Delala and the
others.
GAU negotiations.
Yeah.
John
and I can ask them.
Yeah. What is the probability though? Because I know that it was already presented, that the 8.5 was presented in December. Now with the new research, it's 2%. Is there any opportunity that they say, we still think the 8.5 is the start
No,
option?
no, we've written the board matter at 2. They're not going to, the board is not gonna say, oh, charge more. No, I don't.
They weren't interested in that.
Good,
No.
perfect.
Although, to be honest, and not to offend any of you, they get more interested in the undergraduate tuition than the graduate. We never really talk about the graduate. I talk about it, but they focus on the undergrad, so.
And this is a simple, I think you might have the numbers in front of you, but looking at the annual cost of tuition fees for typical graduate student, international student or non-professional school, what would that 2% look like in a dollar value? For those who are not good at math,
What would
it might be easier to say, okay, that's an increase of $300, that's an increase of $600. Because I know for some, they may not recognize that 2% and what that means.
Oh, so what, the tuition, if you take 24 hours, it would be $187.50.
Okay. So hopefully that's a little bit more at ease. I know me, it's like, what is, so hopefully
Yeah,
that's helpful.
$187.50.
Great.
Yes.
Regardless of whether the tuition increase gets voted on or not, will the fees be like regrouped anyway? Or do you guys
Well, they have to actually vote on that as well.
separately, or
No,
does it
it's
pass
all,
everything?
well, it's all one, presented as all one board matter, but they could pull it out if they wanted to. But the board seems very, very supportive of the idea of grouping the fees. Anything else?
All right, well, if there are no other questions, I do believe that John is also going to give a brief overview of this later on in the meeting. But if we, no other questions?
I'd actually like to thank them for joining us and your time.
And if you wanted to give an overview of these.
Oh, the teacher.
Yeah, sure, I would do.
I brought
poor
some
job.
Salukis and Unity t-shirts. I didn't bring enough for everybody. I didn't realize there would be as many people here as there are. So I think there's 18 or 20 t-shirts. If somebody doesn't get one and you really want one, my office is on the 4th floor of the Student Services Building, or shoot me an email and tell me what size you want, and I'll bring them over to the office and you can pick them up. And my email is loris@siu.edu, or tell Diana or Clay and we'll get them over to you. But they're in celebration of our campus diversity, and we've got a lot of programs going on this week. I think you've probably seen some of the signage and some of the promotion going on, but I wanted to make sure that we shared those with you guys as well. So thank you for allowing us to be here.
Thank you again.
Sorry.
Let's get out of your way. Thank you so much. That was very helpful.
So if anybody does that doesn't get what wants, shoot me an email.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Hey, t-shirts are expensive now.
We had like one of those like guns that just like started shooting it out and everyone. What, t-shirt guns?
All right. Well, we'll keep moving here with our broken up agenda for the evening. We move on back to the approval of the minutes from our previous meetings. These are all up on our website. I know that I believe it was as far back as October 24th was not up yet, but we do have the 24th of October, 14th of November, as well as the December 6th meeting all online. If we can get a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion.
Second.
All right, all in favor of that? Sweet. All right, so we got those minutes approved. Now, we do need to probably rearrange our agenda. I believe the plan is for Diana and I to give our individual officer reports, move on to any other committee reports as a part of that, in anticipation of John arriving here in the next few minutes. So I imagine then I need a motion to move to our officer and committee reports next in the agenda rather than, well, I can't actually cover old business, so I'll do that first. Old business is just the student response to the straw man proposal. I believe this was included in the email reminder for our meeting. Looking at that, just that general overview of the SWOT analysis of the reorganization relative to your program. So building the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and those have been requested for response from the new versions of the proposal by January 26th. So that is this Friday, to get those in so that we can submit the completed report and send it off to the Chancellor's office. I believe we'll again post that on our website. Was there any questions as far as the responses to the redraft of the straw man proposal? Or really the reorganization plan at this point? Yes?
Do we know if and when there'll be another revision or release from the Chancellor to the revision?
I don't know a specific point in time in which there will be, in the sense of in the past, there's been sort of the public forum presentation of it, various things in sort of the student newspaper. I don't know when the next one of that is anticipated. And while there was the second version of the proposal plan, there's indeed sort of a kind of a third version itself, which is part of what John has to present on tonight. He's created, I believe, a number of flowcharts. These are also up on GPSC's website itself that you can take a look at, and I believe that you were emailed these along with the meeting submission itself. And so it has that second version that was back in the previous semester, and then over the break there was some subtle changes or proposed changes that haven't really been released in an official plan, and so there's sort of an in-between third version. And really you have the ability, as far as creating that report, submitting it to us to respond to either both kind of situation for either one of those. As far as the next plan, we have the next Board of Trustees meeting, which is February, it's that Thursday, is it the 8th? It's not the 9th, the 9th is that Friday. Yeah. I have an executive committee meeting for graduate council, so that is this week Thursday. If I hear something in the way of there's a finalized document that's going to be disseminated for that newest version of the plan, I can get back to all of us about that. But with that short of a timeline going to the Board of Trustees, I haven't heard of anything as a public release, a new forum, a presentation, anything like that, no.
Okay. You said we have the responses to the straw man in our email?
Thank you.
The version 2?
Not the responses. You have the version 2 PDF of what that reorganization looks like,
Okay.
as well as I think you have that tentative sort of third version.
Yeah, I
with
know.
some
I'm
proposed
looking at the
changes.
email. I thought you said we had the actual responses. It's fine.
No,
I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss an email.
no, we're still waiting on a number of the sort of program responses, departmental responses from reps, and the date for compiling all those and getting them to the administration is this Friday. So if you haven't submitted those, strongly encouraged to get those in as soon as possible, with Friday being sort of the last point in time in which to get those submitted. And that explanation of what is being requested of you as a representative of your department and the students in your department, your program, is outlined in our email for the meeting tonight. I'm sure Jonathan will have something to say about that too when he gets here as well. But is there any questions about that? Yeah.
Do you have a preferred, other than the SWOT analysis, do you have a preferred format? Would you like it as a letter addressed to the Board of Trustees, the Chancellor, the GPSC, or just presented straightforward as a statement from your department?
You know, pending anything that Jonathan might do, as those are compiled into the single document the way that we did prior, I would say that make that decision as your departmental representative and what the constituents that you have in your department and your program. I mean, I feel like that's something that as you submit that, address it as you and your constituents feel it should be addressed, to who it should go to. And I think very likely Jonathan might reflect that in its compiling in the final document. So If persons in your area want to address it to the Board of Trustees, want to address it specifically to Chancellor, whomever, make that decision as you want. All right, if there's nothing else on that, again, just get those reports in as quickly as you can. They are very important. They were very impactful and useful, not only to our efforts in working on the reorganization, but as well as other constituency groups on campus. So this isn't just sort of bureaucratic busy work. It is important. And with that, I think we can close out old business, and then, yeah, a motion to move to our officer and committee reports. That item 4 being that most of the new business is on John's table. Motion. Seconded. All right, all in favor? Sweet. That passes. All right, so my report. I have a number of things to go over for you all, but I will try to keep it as quick as possible. So, from the last graduate council, just some general overview of things that occurred, some summary of what the Chancellor offered. The reorganization continues to move forward. Discussion of this is December 7th. Meetings with the schools were going to begin following that week in December. So I imagine that is meeting with the faculty, the current department chairs, persons as they would be reorganized into the schools, as they were being considered at that time. So at the time of that meeting, December 7th, there was still some movement for the location of schools and colleges, so what college a school might be located in, as well as in what schools programs would be located. And we'll see a little bit of that on that second to the indeterminate third version of the reorganization proposal. In the meeting, I asked the Chancellor how graduate and professional students can contribute to the revitalization and continued excellence of the university and its programs. The response I received was, be the best graduate student you can be to continue academic excellence. In our next general meeting, I'll follow up for some elaboration on that and get back to you with it. Also, as a part of that meeting, there was some general discussion on enrollment and marketing, sort of projecting into the next year, some concerns among graduate faculty in the meeting. So general discussion on enrollment and strategies to address the next year's numbers in student enrollments. By and large, administrative parties were focused on 3 different issues: the branding of the university, the distinctive of SIU, and marketing and communication strategies, as well as questions directed towards these issues. With the branding of SIU, there's general discussion of some ideas of brand repair in the context of the budgetary issues of the state in the past few years, as well as what's going on with our reorganization, our program specifically, just general aspects of that, the place that we have within a national scheme of universities, as well as within the state and our region, and looking to establish SIU's value relative to other universities. This is sort of in relation and dovetails with the idea of distinctiveness of SIU, and we know that that is a key aspect of many of the proposals and ideas for the reorganization, whereby we're trying to create and cultivate a sense of campus community, however it's being redefined. Some aspects that were discussed with that is really focusing on the experience of being a student at SIU, rather broad concept, whether that is how you're actually introduced to the university, different things that are going on at the university, different student activities, different student programming, things that might be developed, services, whatever they might be that are on campus itself, as well as the Chancellor brought up the notion that he wants to see the campus sort of develop, and I think we discussed this in a meeting prior, the 24-hour campus kind of idea, and we talked about that a little bit in that meeting as well. Getting to more nuts and bolts of enrollment issues and marketing for next year's enrollments and moving forward. Marketing communication strategy. Chancellor, as well as I believe representatives from the Provost's office, discussed the idea that they're really taking a national approach versus what is traditionally, at least characterized by them, as a regional approach to marketing and attracting students to the university. So basically, I believe a quote that was used was making the funnel bigger, as well as taking on an approach through more targeted communications and engagement with prospective students. In specific, taking an individual level approach to how programs are marketed, as well as aspects of programs and recruitment strategies are communicated to students. So actually their individual interests versus just sending them a bunch of information about the university generally was something that was discussed. Any questions with any of that so far? Excellent. All right, we asked a number of questions about changes at the graduate school in that meeting. All questions concerning vacancies or personnel in the graduate school received no comment response. There was a number of resolutions at the last graduate council. There was a second reading for geology PhDs that passed, essentially eliminating all PhD concentrations in geosciences. A second reading for a TOEFL waiver for MA students that passed, waiving the requirement for applicants with an MA degree from U.S. universities who have maintained residency. There's a first reading for a resolution opposing the elimination, I skipped one. First reading for the accelerated MA in history that will be read again at the meeting 2 weeks from this Thursday. And then the first reading for the resolution opposing the elimination of all departments in the reorganization proposals. In that meeting, rules of order were suspended so that it could be discussed and then potentially voted on with only a single reading. There was a friendly amendment adopted on a minor change to some language, and by a secret ballot vote, it was passed with 14 for, 5 against, and 3 abstaining. And then shortly thereafter, the Chancellor exited with remarks concerning the requirement for a plan by April of this year for the board. Otherwise, something in the range of cuts to programs and units will kick in. To do what specific proposal or plan or what that is, I'm not entirely sure. And that's something that I'll follow up on in this week's executive meeting for Graduate Council to try and understand if there is a plan or proposal that exists that would then take effect if there is no agreed reorganization plan as it's been being developed this academic year that would then take its place for board action. I'll stop there again if there's any questions. All right, for some updates on things that are coming spring 2018 for Graduate Council. Like I said, the next Executive Committee meeting is this Thursday, the 25th. And then we are convening an ad hoc committee on student instructors of record that I believe at least will be, if not already, is in coordination with Faculty Senate. That is also taking place this Thursday, and I will report on the committee purpose, scope, and objectives as I learn more with that meeting this week. And there are no questions. I'll shift out of Graduate Council affairs and move on to the survey stuff. Alright, so new report on the graduate student survey. A second draft following the review of the first draft from ARC was submitted to ARC January 6th. I since have held a meeting on the 18th of January with the project leads, and there were some concerns about length. Therefore, third draft and final draft completed and submitted to ARC the 19th of this month. So going forward from here, ARC is doing its last evaluation of the draft. I actually just got an email about it this evening, and they are actually currently building the survey in their software. It's expected to be completed this week. In weighted dimensions on that is for them to complete building the instrument in their software, as well as a human subjects committee review of the survey itself, essentially getting that internal review board approval for the survey instrument. That's expected to be completed by February 9th at the latest. So the projected timeline for the survey at the current moment is to open the survey for participation between February 6th and 12th, with a potential close for data collection that first week of March. Essentially, we're looking at allowing for a maximum of 3 weeks of data collection, and the completion of analysis and delivery of the final report to GPSC roughly March 15th. They have not given me a change on that final delivery date of the report. I believe we're still holding firm on that. And I believe actually we're going to have a representative from ARC come to our next general body meeting to give an explanation of the survey, what the solicitation will look like, because the solicitation for graduate and professional students to respond to it will not actually come from GPSC. We will be promoting it, and I do still have those lists for those of you that, if you don't remember, I'll be in contact with you shortly, that volunteered to sort of keep up on responses and promoting the survey within your colleges or your programs. But the actual solicitation and the link essentially to follow the online survey will be coming from ARC and actually through sort of their software package. And so I believe we're going to actually have one of our project leads from ARC come and explain that on the February 6th meeting. And it should roughly coincide with the opening of the survey itself. And you will definitely be hearing a number of things from us as far as promoting that is something that is going to open up to get response rates and making sure that you are all got the heads up. Any questions? Survey things? Very cool. All right, and yeah.
We had discussed, there's another survey that we've been asked to distribute amongst our members and our constituents, and that's the CCC survey. Some of you may have heard of this. This is a committee that has formed to address the lack of communication with various constituent groups on campus regarding the reorganization. Would it be overwhelming, or, because that's one thing we were unsure of, would it be overwhelming to receive another survey? But note, this other survey is only like 10 questions, pretty much asking about how you've been informed and how you've participated in the conversation and dialogue regarding the reorganization. Can I send that and forward that to you, or would it be too much?
So is that, are you saying like you'll forward that through email, or is that on the new, what's the new platform that took over D2L?
I don't, that, it wouldn't be on D2L because it's a group that consists of professors, students,
So it'd
and
be like
whatnot.
email.
And so it'd be an email, but we're doing it on behalf, we've been asked by this organization to send it out so that they can have, in this survey, good graduate student representation. Because they're sending it out to undergrads, to professors, to NTT, to staff, and so they want to get as much of a population representation on their survey. But I didn't want it to be confused for the survey that we're doing for GSS, because those were asked very different questions. Would that be okay? I don't.
Sent to us or to?
It'd be sent to you to then send to
And
your
then send to the constituents, okay.
to send to your constituents.
We just are making a clear difference so that you will tell your constituents, like, this is a very different survey than the GSS one, because there will be lots of surveys coming out this semester. And so our worry is that students will get like overwhelmed and get
Survey fatigue.
survey
Fatigue. They're like, oh, another survey, you know. And, and
so
of course, we want to, like, ours will definitely answer a lot of the questions on our end. It'd be really first of its kind of. And so before I bombarded you with another survey, I thought I would turn to the body and ask if that would be okay to send that out. I don't know if that even needs to come to a vote, or if it's just a dialogue on the floor, since it's really more about the GSS survey.
So is it gonna say GPSC?
It would not say GPSC, it would say CCC, which it's like the Collaborative Community something. I have the name, but I just can't think of it on the top of my head.
Coordinating.
Yeah,
So it's
coordinating committee.
So it's gonna come direct from them?
No, because they don't have access to the email addresses, so they're asking different bodies. So they have approached like the faculty union, they've approached the graduate student union, they've approached USG to send it out to their members so that they can spread that so that it has a little bit more reach in the population.
So you don't think it's spam?
Yeah, so I don't think it's spam.
Okay.
So you might receive, and if it's easier too, I don't mind sending it from my personal email address so that it doesn't seem confusing. You know exactly where it's coming from and what survey that might be.
Send it.
I'm doing it. You asked for it.
Yeah, I
You're
think
getting
this is
it.
one people will actually be interested in.
Yeah, and so and I probably will also give a little bit when I send that. I'll send it from my own personal email address. That way it won't be as confusing coming from GPSC, and I'll just send it on behalf of that organization and give the details in that email. All right.
Coordinating committee for change.
Coordinating committee for change. Thank you. I was like, it's a throw a C in there and another C.
Let's keep that in.
Committee for change. All right. is the floor turned to me, or are you finished?
I've got a couple other
things?
things.
Okay.
For Diversity and Inclusivity Policy Committee, we completed a review of 3 areas as initiated by the Executive Committee of the Faculty Senate's resolutions concerning Africana Studies and other cultural programs, essentially Latino, Latina, and Latin American Studies, and WGSS. I, the chair, basically me, is going to produce a report for the full council's review on these areas. And I should have that no later than our March 6th meeting. And that will include any resolutions for the body to consider at that time. Going forward into the spring, I think I am going to ask the committee to move forward at this time and move on to other matters, specifically matters of systemic and institutional policy and programming for greater diversity and inclusivity, or inclusive climate at SIU, being that that was sort of our mandate coming into this year. This was determined last spring. So any recommendations from the general body or your constituents as to the matters within this broad scope of sort of affairs or issues is welcomed. You can communicate those either to me or a committee member through any means possible or necessary, I suppose. And we'll be taking those up in our next meeting to be held soon. Any questions with that? I'll move on to my last bit of business then. With the graduate school, I believe you have received email notices and potentially even saw it in the news itself. There was an interim associate dean for the graduate school appointed, not necessarily during break while the university was closed, but while the university was still open over the winter break for courses. Dr. Wallace was appointed to that position. She will be the day-to-day director and operational officer for the graduate school, and an acting dean of the graduate school will be appointed as soon as possible. I did have a meeting with Dr. Wallace the 17th of this month. We had a very good discussion. We are going to continue our monthly meetings as someone in my position has done in the past with the dean of the graduate school. She communicated what I would convey to you as a very strong and committed voice for supporting graduate students, graduate studies, and programming. And I would characterize my takeaway from it a serious emphasis for focusing on what is working in any given program, and then identifying what's working and making sure that we are basically putting our resources, our efforts into doubling down on those things, and then identifying those things that are working within programs and then carrying those over into areas that can be improved by saying, look, we have proof of concept, we have best practices here. And I find that incredibly encouraging for graduate studies and graduate programs as well as graduate students. And I am anticipating some good work to come out of that under the directorship of Dr. Wallace. Any questions? That? All right, well then that will complete my portion of reports. I'll turn over to you.
Thank you. The fee allocation board met with 5 organizations before our meeting, and have some a varying amount of recommendations for you to consider. Sorry, let me put this in order. So our first organization that we met with was the Cognitive Sciences Graduate Student Organization. They're going to be hosting a speaker series, Brain and Cognitive Sciences speaker series. They're also going to be doing, I don't have that other one, in connection with this speaker series, a Brain Month?
Brain Awareness Month.
Brain Awareness Month. And so this would be happening over March and April. And also other organizations will be involved. Sigma Psi is one of the other organizations involved, as well as the Health and Wellness Center. They originally sent us a documentation that requested $550. They then amended that by turning in another application on the spot with an additional $400, so requesting $900, with us previously only being able to review the first document. After listening to their pitch and understanding a little bit more about their upcoming events, We recommend at this time providing them $450 towards their speaker series. Any questions?
I have a question. So is that something with their speaker series, is that directed towards the entire campus, or is that directed to a specific department?
This is opened up to the entire campus. I did ask, this is an annual event. I couldn't really get the number on how long it's been going on, simply because he's a new president, new to his position. But this is something that they promote across campus, especially the first event in March. I mean, they have several other organizations. They're participating with the health and wellness center, so they're actually gonna have like yoga classes. They're gonna have different things like that center on brain cognition and wellness, and it's gonna be a whole month-long event. So it will be something. I think that is something that's new for them, but they are hoping to reach. In their prediction, upwards to 80 people, but I imagine more.
And I'd like to preface that we always inquire whether or not that they're teaming up with other people, and also if the events are open to the entire school as well.
Yeah, that's like one of our big things. Is this just like a private party, or is it or is it something that's open to everyone? Any questions? Any additional questions? If not, I'm going to bring the recommendation to the floor that we provide $450 to the Cognitive Sciences Graduate Organization. Can I get a motion? Motion. A second?
Second.
All in favor? Oppose? Abstentions? All right, $450 will be given to the Cognitive Sciences Graduate Organization. Mouthful. Next, we also then met with, lots of organizations tonight. Next, we met with the Graduate Writers Forum on their event, Little Grassy, a literary festival. This is something that we've provided funding for in the past and have traditionally done so. This event happens April 11th through the 13th, and it does bring in quite a bit of people. They usually have upwards to 400 people that attend the event. This is a speaker series. It's also coincides with the Crab Orchard publication. And so they have requested $2,000, looking at what we have remaining within our funding and also what we've traditionally given them in the past. We at this time recommend providing them $1,250 for this event. Any questions regarding the event? All right. Well, then I will also bring that to the floor. Do I have a motion for providing $1,250 to the Little Grassy Literary Festival? All right.
Would remain in the budget after allocation?
Well, right now, that's a good question. So what we have right now in our event budget is $225.77. And that's for the rest of the year. What we now know that we as a committee can also say, hey, there's some really great events that we've always sponsored. Why don't we shift funds from one thing to another? We'd still bring that to a vote. But we are just giving our recommendation on what we have. I could tell you that what I have on my plate right now are ones that have reserved a position to meet with us at our next upcoming meeting. We only have one organization at this time. I know one organization has mentioned that they are would be submitting a proposal, but that's all I have on the table right now.
Is that number you mentioned before tonight's allocations or after?
No, this is what we have. Right, this is not after. This is what we have remaining. This is what we had to look at when we were considering these numbers.
Okay.
So I don't want to give the total of what would be remaining if all passed tonight, but based on our recommendations, because I don't want that to alter your decisions. I will, if it's helpful, what we gave to them last year was $1,500. We have supported this so for the last 2 years that I've served on the fee allocation board, we've supported this event. This is actually one of the largest events for the English department and on the campus of SIU. Mm-hmm.
Do they have other funds?
Yes, this event actually originally cost $8,600, and all they're asking for us was $2,000. So their funding is both, I think they received partial funding from, they listed it actually, I wrote it down.
Other
departments, the fine arts fee. They also asked They also received funding from the Crab Orchard publication to sponsor some of the speakers. So they've definitely done their legwork of finding additional money for this event. But as I mentioned, they are used to getting about this amount of money from us, and so traditionally.
Are there any other events that are expected to come up in March, April?
At this time, traditionally what we sponsored, we really put out the message, send us your request early. So we've seen most of our traditional events. There's still some on this list that are on that list of traditional events that we need to discuss. There has been one speaker series that we didn't sponsor last year, but we sponsored a year before that they're also going to be submitting, and then the one that I have right now. But no, one that we also had received in the past during this time frame would be for the 5K for the law school, but I don't think that that's happening again this year. But that's also one that we saw later in the spring in past years, but I haven't heard anything about that coming through the pipeline.
I know one of the organizations I'm president of, we are expecting to send one. I thought it was sent, but apparently it wasn't. It's only we're only asking for, I believe, $400. It cost us like $3,000.
And true, like I said, this is how much we have in travel funding right now. So we have $10,975 in travel funding. We've only had at this point, I think, $8,000 that has been. So if we wanted to, we could say as a group, let's designate another $1,000 to go to event funding, or we see this is like part of our community, and we, our projection so far, if we're looking at half the semester, another half semester, is that they would not meet that $10,975. And so there's an opportunity, if we wanted to just say, all right, let's reallocate funds if we needed to.
So I also know the International Immigration Law Society is expected to submit for the annual career panel.
Okay.
It's in February, and that's open to the entire school. That would only be that would be less than $200.
Well, make sure, and I'm more than happy, just so you know also, because there will be some interesting things to move forward within this conversation, but also to think about procedure. So we meet along the timeline of our meetings, and so if that is the case, make sure that they get in their documentation so that we can also have that on our plate. Like I said, I could have had 6 people. We would have had a much longer meeting. I had to keep these brief and tight to see these 5 people, and I saw them in order that they submitted so that they could have the first opportunity to the funding available. And so in the past, once we've run out of funds, we've run out of funds. We certainly last spring, we ran out of funds, I think, halfway through that semester, and that's all.
February,
yeah, I want to say about at the end of February, and there's really nothing we can do at that point. We had,
If I might say something, sorry, that we do let almost all the organizations know in the fall you need to come forward as soon as possible because we have limited funding, especially with last year's budget.
Yeah.
And so we do like to encourage the people who are proactive and plan these events ahead of time. And we really are trying to focus on procedure to make it efficient and smooth and fair to all these organizations.
Yeah. And also what we do as well, I guess kind of behind the curtain, is that we also give them, I personally try to inform them of a lot of other funding opportunities on campus that they may not be aware of. So we also take that into consideration of people they can potentially join with. If they haven't reached out, if they have an arts events and they never even heard of the fine arts fee and how that supports events like that on campus, we really do kind of educate them and become slightly a consultant at that time of how to both promote their event and also fund their events. So,
Can I motion to vote?
we can motion to vote. All right, so once again, to repeat that was the Little Grassy Literary Festival, bringing upwards to 400 people involved in that, and we're offering $1,250. We've got a second on the floor. All in favor? All right. I'm like losing my mind now. The nays? Any nays? Anyone who does not agree with that? Any abstentions? All right, so then we will provide them $1,250. We then had our next group. This is one, it was the Iranian Students Association for the, and I apologize if I'm saying this wrong, for the Yalda night. This is one that came in, I don't necessarily want to give all the background on this organization, but this is one that came in past the time frame that we met in the fall. So if we, like our last time that we met as a group, this was submitted like right when school's about to end. So I had to inform them that unfortunately we had to follow procedure and that they would have to submit, even though they would have their event on December 18th, that they would have to then submit and follow through with the standard procedure because it was kind of like a quick email. And so we met with them today. We have supported an event for them already in the fall. That was also kind of a very similar type of very quick, rushed request. And so their event was a dinner. It was a celebration of the evening that included 35 to 40 people. And they had requested $400. So we met with them. And after consideration, more so because of the procedures and trying to understanding that they also informed us that they had another event that they hoped for us to sponsor in the spring, being that this was a winter event, we at this time are only offering $50. Does anybody have any questions?
So they emailed you the day before the event? Is that what
It was like the week of, and it was like we're in finals and we're also about to break. Actually, that's in like, and also the event was like right at that cusp. And so that's the thing, it's like we usually ask for these, like on our documentation, we ask for these at least 2 weeks in advance. And actually in our documentation, we ask for a month in advance. But we've been giving a leeway for people to give it 2 weeks in advance. So this was just a few days in advance. And the last one that we actually did grant money for, a total of $100, was giving us like literally like I think the day, like the Tuesday before the event, and they came and they just kind of showed up to the meeting and asked for funding. So we didn't really have time to process that information. And we did say that if they were to ask, and in that previous meeting we said, if we grant you money again, you must follow procedure. We want to be kind and fair to all that are requesting, and so the only thing we can do is make sure that there's a procedure involved. And so that's why we forced them to do this procedure past the event.
So my question is, whenever you do offer the funding, or if you say that we're not going to fund, do you give that reason for
Yes.
why? Okay.
I do. So so even with this amount, because it's a much lower amount than they had requested, I would say we already provided you money in the fall, so we've supported your. We try to support as many organizations as possible throughout the academic year. But also because of the lack of procedural order, we had to take into consideration those that we have on our plate and those that we are expecting to come forward, like in the future. And also the fact that they did note to us that they're going to potentially ask for money as well for another upcoming spring event. That hopefully they then will submit things in 2 weeks in advance and in wonderful order.
So we're funding this event that already happened. What are they using the money for?
It would be to refund those that spent money out of pocket, or to refund any money that was absorbed by their organization.
So would it be going through student life then, or how is the money funds actually distributed?
It would go through our attorney, or not our attorney, our accountant, and then it would be put into their RSO funding.
Okay, so they can't, it's not like they can withdraw cash from the accountants to distribute to their members, so I'm not really sure.
But I'm not too sure if this came from the account. I mean, we did, I was trying to ask, but unfortunately, and that's the reason why we also, originally this was actually a 0. I was trying to be kind, and so I would negotiate a 50. If the room feels that they should not receive that money at the time, I can easily communicate to them why and tell them how to better apply so they can receive the full amount of funding for the spring.
Well, I don't think we wouldn't be funding the event at this, now we'd be funding a future event or something else they spend the money on. Wouldn't be funding this
could
event.
I just add,
yeah, sorry.
So the way that works actually is that they would put the money, Diana would send it to the accountant puts it in their RSO fund, but you can't just spend RSO fund money. It actually has to go back through the accountant and be okayed as a legitimate way to spend that money, and then the accountant will okay that and they'll send out like the checks or however that needs to go specifically for that. So it would have had to been, so what Diana's saying is that was for an event that yes has already happened, but that money would still have to go specifically for that. So it would actually refund people that were out of pocket or however that worked for that event. It wouldn't necessarily be able to go to a new event.
Well, I don't think the accountants, unless they have like an outstanding bill at this point, I don't think the accountants could do anything for them, because I don't think they can send checks to people without, you know, certified receipts and everything. So.
But and unfortunately, the representative also did not have, because we asked this type of information, like well, like how the money that you spent on this event, who paid for that? Was it the RSO? Was this donated by someone else in the community? And we just got, I don't know. And so we really couldn't go off on anything of how that was allocated, unfortunately. And like I said, I mean, if at this time they did not present enough information to persuade the general body to provide them this $50, I can easily email them and say that we recommended $50, but because this was a past event that we took into consideration, we just felt that we couldn't do anything for it at this time, but to please submit at this time frame for your upcoming event.
Sheena, you're saying that you actually know that this is how the process works in the university system, right?
So, yeah, because with the RSOs that we have at the law school, sometimes the International Immigration Law Society has to do things with the undergraduate Model UN, and I cannot just ask for money out of my account and just go get what I need. I literally have to go buy all of this stuff myself and then submit the receipt, and then they will send me personally a check from the RSO funds. But I have to submit a receipt showing that what I bought or what was spent was specifically for that event and not for some just shopping spree. And if I want to give money to Model UN, I can't just say, this is for food for a joint collaboration that we're doing with an undergraduate RSO. I literally have to make the money go through the system because it's coming from a professional student RSO to an undergraduate RSO. So then that RSO, when we distribute money into their account, from our personal accountant to their personal accountant in the undergraduate, they have to then, to use the money that we granted them, have to go and purchase whatever they're purchasing and take the specific receipt saying this was from the money that this other RSO went to and not just for a shopping spree.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify for the body that Sheena's speaking from experience and Steven's speculating about the process.
No, I'm speaking from experience as well for 5 years at this university.
Yeah.
I just didn't hear you talk about
So
experience.
for this event, if someone could literally produce a receipt showing that they were out of pocket for that specific event, line itemized, it was for this event, it was my money, I spent it for this event, then that money that we would give to them would specifically come out of their account, and personally a check would be written to that person.
And you can't create retroactive receipts, correct? They said they didn't have receipts.
No, they had
do have
receipts. They actually showed us the receipts.
I'm sorry.
So they actually did show, like, you know, this was, and they showed like, okay, this is where the restaurant we had, this is how much it cost per plate, this is how much it cost for the tables and linens. So they spent $900 on this event.
Yes.
And had requested 400, and we're only offering them 50 because it was just more out of like a token of like, you know, thank you for coming in and meeting with us, but in the future we do ask you that you go through this process so that this doesn't happen again.
So what I'm wondering is there a negative balance, and is there something to show that there is a negative balance?
We didn't ask for that, and but I could ask the accountant for that. Okay. I mean, I literally could just walk down and be like, hey, Scotty, what do you have for this RSO right now as far as their balance, and you know, if we were to give them this, how
I mean, the problem I see is there won't be receipts and it'll just go towards the future funding. Is that?
It would just go if we just did it like this, and like what Sheena's saying, because you can show like I spent out of pocket for this. It would just go to their RSO account.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So if they could have spent money. So let's say they had $400 in their RSO account.
Yeah, I mean,
they could have spent money out of the RSO account.
But there are specific like stipulations, like if it's for alcohol, like an RSO can't buy alcohol. But like there's stipulations like that, so it has to be within the framework of what is allowed to be spent out of an RSO account.
And there will technically be a receipt, the check
Yeah.
Because for the Hispanic Law Student Association, I spent like $200 out of pocket buying stuff for our Hispanic Food
Right.
Day, and then I sent it to the accountant, the receipts, and then I got a check from the school, so the proof of them
here.
getting the check will be from the school.
All right, so with all this said, are there any other questions? So with this said, with this particular group, the Iranian Students Association, at this time we're only offering $50. Like I said, you can also not vote for this and overturn our vote. Can I get a motion on the floor for $50?
Motion.
Okay, can I get a second on the floor?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Okay, all opposed? Abstentions? 2 or 3, 4, 4. Am I counting that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. All right. I believe the motion passes. Looking at the number, I didn't count. I didn't do a head count. I apologize. I'm just going to look at the numbers and figure it out. So at this time, we're giving them $50 and let them know about the process and procedures moving forward. All right. Our next group was the Women and Gender Studies, Sexuality Studies group. They host an annual event. It's the WGSS conference. This conference upcoming is Transitions and Transformations. This is something we've supported since I've served on FAB. It's now in its 6th year, and we have supported it for the last 2 years. This is an event that brings upwards to 250 students and attendees, professors, undergraduate and graduate students. They have requested $650. At this time, however, we had to determine whether or not we were able to give them as an organization this funding. WGSS is not a registered RSO this year. It has been in previous years, but because of some, their previous director had retired, kind of leaving some things to fall short of that process. And so one of the top lines of our request form does say that you must be a registered RSO.
So is this in conjunction with anyone else? Is this like...
Not in conjunction. So what we'd like to do at this time, so that we're fair to everyone, is we'd like to give them the opportunity to come to our next meeting and see if they can have a co-sponsoring organization that then can make the request on their behalf. If that makes sense. So that we're following procedure, and so that, because if not, it sets precedents, can't talk. That any group and organization can ask without having those requirements.
I have a question. I'm kind of new here, but so, and this kind of relates back to the previous people who asked for money. Do you guys have any type of formal warning system for people who don't follow procedure? So
I mean, what we have is we have this request form,
Yeah.
and this request form does outline the expectations.
Yeah.
When people email me, and I also contact them to let them know their reservation, like, yes, we received your application, we'd love to meet with you on this date and time. I also kind of try to hint some of the expectations, or see if they have any questions. But for this one group, that's why I wanted to kind of give out the olive branch. This is their first year ever asking for funding. This is not their first year asking for funding. So they are a little bit more familiar with our procedures. And also, in past, one other thing that we discussed is that we didn't really have a clear itemized understanding of what entailed in their events. So we really couldn't determine, so we didn't want to limit ourselves based on the only line item that we had. Because this is an event that cost $1,600. They requested $650, but we wanted to know because other people will show full line items. Even though, so that way, let's say they're only asking for money for alcohol. And we're like, we're not going to give them money for alcohol, but we will pay for the room reservation, even though that's not what they're requesting it for. If that makes sense. So we want to have a better understanding of what the event is and how that money will be allocated.
So tell us again, what's the organization and...
So this is the Women and Gender Women and Gender and Sexuality Studies organization. This is an annual event. And so at this time, and they did ask, and I will be transparent, they did ask, and I was like, so
this is WUGS?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you, as a group, can overturn this and say, let's not consider this, and let's still consider giving them what their request was.
So since we don't have OrgSync anymore and a new system hasn't been put in place, how would anyone actually go about being
This is
an
true. We
RSO?
actually had this conversation as well.
Yeah.
And that's what I said. It's like, well, could they even become an organization this spring if they wanted to?
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, there are procedures. You know, I know that they had another open house that they do for president or like the organizations to come and kind of learn about procedures. But since they don't have OrgSync, yes, Lauren. Sorry.
I can offer perspective. So I am the former president, I'm acting president of WGSS. RSO. The issue is that the director, our former faculty advisor, left when she retired. For those of you who are involved with WGSS, the department, the RSO was started as like the graduate student organization of the department of WGSS. But we've been left without a director, and there's not a whole lot of faculty in the department at this point, and so it's been very hard to collectively organize as an organization, and also because of OrgSync, we are left in this like awkward space of we don't know how RSOs are registered. With that being said, to give context for this event, this is one of the largest conferences held on campus. It is open to undergraduates, but predominantly audienced and submitted to by graduate students. We give a ton, I think last year we gave 5 awards. I think most went to graduate students. It also is a place where we get to like showcase the work that we do here at SIU because it's predominantly SIU students, and therefore that's particularly useful in a world where the chancellor thinks our job is just to be good grad students. Going to conferences is part of being good grad students. Things like that look really good for us, and admin do show up to it. Last year Liz Lewin was at all of it. GPSC had quite a few people participate in it, including myself, John, Emily, I don't know if anyone else in the room. Lots of people in GPSC also participate in this conference. I think that there were over, I want to say 50
right now says I'll represent them.
panels, but it's a whole day and there's quite a bit that goes on. Mira speaks at it every year. It's a pretty big event for SIU.
So Sheena has a great suggestion.
Jake, Women's Law Forum.
Yes.
Would you like to sponsor their event?
I'd have to talk with the president
Okay.
just because I.
To move forward?
Will
I
you
mean, like if
ask
so,
Jessica?
so their
I'll ask
request, so
Ashley,
what we
yeah.
gave them
Ashley.
last year is they requested exactly the amount we gave them last year. So they requested $650. But we had to take that into consideration, and we wanted to be fair. And I think that was fair just to say, come back, get an organization, and most likely we'll grant you this money. But we just want to make sure that this is following procedure. Now, we can overturn that today and say, that we'd like to just move forward.
Yeah, can we create a singular exemption for the
Sure, we can.
RSOs because
Yeah.
of the lack of-
We actually could. As a group, we could say, because we as FAB only give a recommendation, right? You as a group is saying, nah, that's not going to work for us. We would like you to take this into consideration instead. So we can only give we give the recommendation. You give us the votes in consideration of what you want to do moving forward. So, would you like to suggest that we look at this singular situation because there is an OrgSync and all that?
Well,
and
the follow-up problem though that I just thought of with the previous conversations, I don't know if they have access to an account if they're not recognized as an RSO, because I don't know how they.
Lauren, your name's on this application. What do you know?
Yeah, as far as I know, we still have access to the account. According to the WGSS
Yeah.
faculty of
So
work
if it
student.
was-
Also, I think that, are there any other RSOs in the room who might be willing to sponsor who know they haven't found?
Nina's is having a conference too, we might be able to do something. I can bring it up with
Okay.
him next Wednesday.
So does that resolve it if we?
It might be easier because what Steven's trying to say is very nice. He's saying let's
Yeah.
just give you the $650 now since we already I'm understanding it that way. Let's waive
Yeah.
this. Let's waive this understanding, and you wouldn't even have to have another RSO.
Yeah, but
So
I
it's up
think
to
if the
you.
question, right, your question's about an existence of an account.
Well, they may not let you access it.
Right. If you're not,
Listen,
that's
I don't
you bring up a really great point.
So the reason, I'm gonna let you have it, Clay, but the reason I asked about another RSO sponsoring was so that the money could go to their account, but.
Is the question whether or not the WUGS RSO can access its RSO account
Yes.
due to its lack of activation status?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to give you the long and short of this. The SIU does not have a student
Just the
content.
short. Let's
The
just
short.
do the
I'm
short.
going
Jonathan's back.
5 minutes or less, actually. Because we have no org sync, there's no record of these things. You could go to the student involvement office, say, I want
Not
to.
law school. We never had org sync. Thank
Continue what you're saying.
You could go to the student development office, say, I want to be the president of the organization. I understand you guys don't have the content system up. Please list me as the president. These are my officers. Reactivate my account. There is no reason why they should not be able to do that. If you would like me to go with you to help you out with that, I can. I said I would give them a list of grad orgs that we've approved, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay,
There you go. So,
Clay has something.
so something that we've discussed in the past as council was as a body endorsing events as a co-sponsor so as to get the profile of the council out there, supporting efforts on campus that make sense in the context of graduate and professional student studies. And that would be something that is outside of the formal process of RSOs petitioning for supplemental funding for their events that they're holding. This is a case in which there is no, as of now, formal RSO that is petitioning for this funding and is creating logistical problems. I think this is a right case for GPSC to consider as a council full to sign on as a co-sponsor, offering in effect the $650 to co-fund what is obviously a very important event for the campus as a whole, as well as any number of graduate and professional programs. I think that that's probably our most expedited solution here, as well as that puts our co-sponsorship on an event that I think is something that is very much in our best interest as a council as well.
Awesome. I definitely, I appreciate all the communication. It seems like most agree, so let's go ahead and bring this to a vote, and we'll let the room decide. So I'd like to bring a motion to the floor that, or would someone like to bring a motion to the floor that we overlook this singular situation and provide the request of $650 to the WGSS conference this spring?
I have a question first.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
yes.
So are we not going to get a list of what's going on?
What's that?
Like, we're not getting an itemized list of where the money's going, other than just for awards?
We only give a recommendation, right? Because we even as a board may not agree, right? So we come up to a recommendation, and so this is now on, we now are bringing this recommendation, they can overturn our recommendation. Right. So we have not been given an itemized list, but if this body does not want one, it doesn't matter.
Is the proposed motion right now for GPSC to partner or for us to make an exemption?
Yeah, I have that question.
I think partnering is better.
Yeah, partner. Okay.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm saying that GPSC as a council, formal body itself, actually pay the $650 direct, in effect being a co-sponsor of the event.
I'm down, but let's bring it to a vote.
Motion?
See, all right, so all in favor? All right, all opposed? Any abstentions?
Well, what about the other?
Well, it all passes, and we still got one more to go.
Really?
We do. One more. All right, so let me get my. All right, so we have one more to go. Minus 6. Okay, so our next organization that met with us was the Zoology Grad Student Association and Anthropology Grad Student Association. They have a lovely event on campus that happens every year, and it's the Darwin Week, and that happens February 12th through the 16th. This spring, we have supported this in the past, and it usually brings anywhere from 200 to 300 participants. The event overall cost $8,000 and a little over $8,600. They originally requested just under $4,000, but then amended their request at the meeting for just $2,000. And so at this time, just based on the money that we have remaining and also our previous giving, we would like to just make a recommendation of $1,000 at this time towards this event. Any questions or conversations from the floor? All right. Do I have, yes.
What is, so it's Darwin Week? What is?
So what they do is this actually consists, they have a symposium, they also have a film screening, they have a speaker, and they also have an art show. And all celebration of the wonderful man that is Darwin. and his contributions to the sciences and our understandings of that. And so this is actually an event that is a national-wide event, so it doesn't just happen singly on our campus, but across campuses across the country. Yes?
So I'm the ZGSA representative, and it's basically like a department-wide, sort of like collaborative to educate people on evolution and like a strictly scientific basis. So like all of us pretty much do presentations and like hold booths and everything. So.
All right. Like I said, we as an organization have sponsored this in the past, or have provided funding to them in the past. So at this time, the recommendation is $1,000. Would anybody like to make a motion from the floor? Sounds great. Second? All right, all in favor? All right, any objections or abstentions? All right, that one passes. So now with that said, let me do my math. So with that said, we now only have $1,325.77 within our event funding account, or within that. And so also, like I said, as we get requests, we as a FAB committee can also decide to shift funding and bring that to the body. But typically what we do is we exhaust this money, and once it's exhausted, that's all we can provide for the year, because that's what we budgeted for. In our travel funding, we have $10,975 remaining. So if you have not submitted any travel funding yet, or if you have questions about what can be submitted for travel funding, please see me to get that in, and get that in early, because I imagine that there's always those spring conferences, so I imagine we'll have like that pool of like applicants come in. Any questions? Yes.
I have like probably 1 or 2 questions. Did you get a funding request from the International Society? Because I think they had that big international fair, right?
We did get the.
Already passed?
They had asked us. I want to say we already granted that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the second one is about the journals. I remember that last year.
We did that. Yeah, they came in early.
So
we told them last. We told them. Okay. We told them last year, come in the fall, because you have an awesome event, and we want to make sure we can give you money for your event, especially for the International Food Festival and like the big festival that they have. So they came in the fall.
Okay, because I just remember us allocating a lot to them.
Yeah.
So if the major ones are done, then
yeah,
it should be enough to cover whatever's left. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any questions?
Well, yeah, I was wondering if we can think about a new policy of allocating money for events for next year, and I don't know even if that's acceptable, because we might have like new people next year, and they can say no.
This is true.
Yeah, because what I was thinking is it's great that we are funding a lot of events, and we are happy to do that, but also to help the others who are coming a little bit late, and instead of just saying, oh sorry, we are done with the money, but we can think about minimum and maximum, and we, in a way or another, if we agree as a body, we can go and give like those medal, like if we say like minimum 100, just a number, 200 maximum, 150, we can give people in those around, and then if we are like say in the spring, after January, February, we still have much money, and then we can start giving people the all amount they ask for. Instead of receiving some applications and we say, you know what,
what would happen is when we run out of funding, and I say when because we've always run out of funding for event funding for the past years that I've served on this committee, is then on our website, the website you have to access the form for applications says we have run out of money, or not in these words, but we have run out of money. I'm sorry, come back to us in the fall, and then it kind of advises people. And so there wouldn't be no one would, unless they got it, unless we did a vote that night and someone came in and turned in the application the next day, that would be quickly communicated that if you're clicking on this link, that at this time we've exhausted our funds.
Yeah, I think I'm sorry, I didn't make myself clear. What I was thinking is that instead of we are funding like 10 or 12 like events, then we can increase that number. It becomes like 15, 17, 20. So it gives like more funding for more people.
Well, but also, I appreciate what you're saying, and this is something that can come up to discussion in the FAB committee. That's absolutely no problem. We always take what you say and certainly discuss it. But you have to also think, like, there are some events that only have 10 people come, and there's some that have 500 people come. So to limit the 500 people event that's promoted and lasts for 2 weeks and brings in like 10 speakers, to give them the same amount as the 10-person event, I don't think is fair either.
Also, some of these concerns might be less worrisome if and when we get the money from undergraduate students, because then we'll just have significantly more money than we're used to having, and we may not run out as fast or as easily, I assume. So that my point is that the concerns that you're raising may not be a problem next year, when we get the however much money from the undergraduate student government.
Yeah, but also what I can see is for that event, which can host like 100, 200 or 300 people, I can imagine they can get some money from many different places, because they have been here, they did that event many times, so they have the networking and connections more than...
I will say they actually do bring in more money than the smaller ones. They bring in, like this one, their event costs $9,000, and they then only request $2,000 from us. So they raise $7,000. Where other small events, they don't really do much outside fundraising. So the event that only costs $200, I can imagine we typically do sponsor, or we do fund those. But if they come in May, we would have to say no, because we just don't have the money.
So I have one question about that. So I think that maybe what Abudi is saying is that if we had money, say like you said, in travel funding, I think that maybe Willie did something about this previously, that we voted because it was clear that
we needed, that's what I've been saying
the travel funding was not, we had so much money in travel funding that it was more important to, people weren't actually trying to travel, because even the expenses of like hotel stays and things like that, other sources of funding weren't available, so there's a lot less student travel happening because there's just not funding other than just the $75 to $150 that you get from GPSC, which barely covers some of the costs for some of this travel. So it seems that our travel funding isn't going down in a way that it did, say, 3 years ago, so maybe we could allocate that.
Yeah, I think I started off that way. I said that, like in our next meeting, what we discussed, or what I discussed in our meeting, is that we need to evaluate the trends of our event funding, the trends of our travel funding, and see if we'd like to make a recommendation to shift $1,000 or so.
On that, do you feel that the trend has been, or what you've seen since maybe last year or within the last, say, year and a half, with the budget cuts and things like that, do you feel like that more events are popping up, like on campus, locals staying here versus leaving?
So here's what's happening is that a lot of these events used to receive a lot of outside money, and then everybody became poor. And so they're like, well, who's still giving out money? Oh, GPSC is. So we actually have had a lot more people request funding, and a lot more diverse people request funding, because before they could just gone to the provost, or they could have gone to whatever center and they would have just paid the bill. But now it's like, we lost all our funding. Can you give us anything so that we can just keep this going until our school reaches the status again where they can support us?
But the upside of that is just so many more people know that we are here now.
Yeah, it's true. Glass half full.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wanted also to just add two things. The first thing is, I'm sorry, I'm not saying... I'm not saying...
I don't think that's even come to the vote yet, right? Yeah, just I'm going to put that out there. All right.
Yeah, I'm not saying about like a policy for spending the money for the events is because we are giving X or Y 1,000 or 2,000 and why we did. No, at all. We are very happy that we are helping, supporting the groups on campus, and that's great. But what I'm saying is we are trying in a way or another also to protect the new events or weak groups or new people that they are trying. As you said, they might have only $200, which if we offer that $200, we are actually sponsoring their event. It's like trying to protect what could be like a weak or a small event. That's it. Thank you.
All right.
So, I usually don't comment on fab business because fab business is Diana's responsibility. But one of the things we might consider is that GPSC's event funding, if I'm doing my math right, is literally 10 times smaller than USG's event funding.
Yep.
In where that is concerned, a number of the events that that we have approved are events that serve both graduate students and undergraduate students, despite being hosted by or put on by graduate student organizations. So one of the things we could politely suggest is that some of these organizations reach out to USG for funding. And to be clear, I have no knowledge as to whether or not these organizations reached out to USG or what USG's determination was.
Some did, I will say, some did, and they actually, because they are technically a graduate organization, not, because some organizations are mixed, they're undergraduate and graduate.
That's fair.
So they were denied the opportunity to pitch.
So to that end, one of the things that I might suggest is having a conversation with USG about how they're making determinations for funding organizations, because our determinations are made on the basis of the event, not simply who's hosting it. USG's determinations are made on the basis of who is doing the hosting, not who the event is serving. None of this is to say that we need to show up like robber barons and take USG's money, but it is worth having the conversation with USG about the ways in which they are choosing not to fund events that are hosted by graduate organizations or organizations with the word graduate in the title. Because to be clear, the ZGSA anthropology thing is something that serves all students on this campus. The cognitive science thing is something I believe serves all students on this campus.
They were one that was denied.
Okay, I saw that email.
Yeah.
The WUGS thing does serve all students on this campus. So our responsibility as student government is to serve students. So again, it would be worth having the conversation. That's all I got to say about that.
But also, we do, like, I'm going to emphasize, we do have a very limited budget. So eventually that budget does run out. That's just the nature of the beast. On both the traveling funding and the event funding, there's just a certain point within that. So so I unfortunately have to tell people, especially when it comes towards May, that I apologize, we have a limited amount in our annual budget, and we've allocated that at this time.
It's also good that it runs out, because if it doesn't run out, then USG could justify taking money from us or...
Well, what, does theirs run out?
No. They actually usually have like a $30,000 excess.
Well, then we can justify taking their money too.
Yes, we can.
Okay, I didn't suggest it.
All right, I'm done. Whew, we got through it.
Did we approve this?
We did approve it. It was just so long in the conversation, I forgot what happened.
Okie dokie. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for my tardiness. I was asked to speak to the Carbondale community on behalf of graduate students with regards to graduate student position on the reorganization. Good thing I was there, because one of the things that came up was a question as to the qualifications of graduate students as instructors of record, and particular complaints about graduate students not being qualified to teach. My response was every graduate student in my cohort and cohorts following me tends to go through a teaching practicum, which ensures that they are capable of teaching. Most graduate students are stuck in leading discussion sessions before they're given their own classes. If a graduate student is placed in a classroom and they are unprepared to teach, this is a problem with having low numbers of faculty. If we had more faculty, both NTT and tenure track, you could have more graduate students going through practicums and being in classrooms prepared to teach. This is not a graduate student problem. This is an institutional problem, and to blame graduate students for it is unacceptable. That was my standing line on that matter, and that will be the thing that I tell anyone else who dares to suggest that graduate students are unqualified to teach. If we're not qualified to teach, then it's not on us, it's on you to teach us to teach. That's all there is to that. So if you look at your agenda, there's a whole bunch of other stuff on here. The Prosper Act, administrative updates. We are removing item B from the agenda, pending a response from John Charles, who is our legislative guy in Springfield, who will inform me what the university and our reps are doing about this. To be clear, if you haven't heard about it, it does some particular nasty things like eliminating Thurgood Marshall Fund, particular ways of public service forgiveness, reducing the kinds of loans that grad students can take out, all kinds of things that are pretty terrible for us. Once I get more information from John Charles, I will provide that to the body. I have also been provided with a list of legislative changes that affect SIU. It is some 33 pages long, so when I give you a thing on the Prosper Act, I will also give you a thing on all of the legislative changes that affect SIU. So you have that to look forward to at our next meeting. Item 3, administrative appointments. Julianne Wallace is the interim associate dean of the grad school and director. I assume that Clay informed you of his meeting with her and provided you with some overview, so I need not belabor that. Todd Bryson is now our interim associate chancellor for institutional diversity, which means we no longer have a faculty staff something or other as co-chair of the Diversity Council. That is an item which will come up at the Diversity Council. To be clear, I am the other co-chair of the Diversity Council. Until we have a new chair, I get to be chair of the Diversity Council. I doubt that will last very long, just because, it's me. The associate dean of the student search, we had a couple people drop out, so we are calling up some of our other candidates. Rose Moros gave her presentation. We expect to have another candidate come in and speak. When we get the dates and the schedule for that, I will distribute it to you as quickly as possible. Grad school improvement plan. At the emergency meeting, Representative Smith asked for plans, counter proposals, on the basis that the chancellor was asking for plans, counter proposals. I said I would put one together by this meeting for the graduate school. I have delayed that until I can speak with Interim Director Wallace a little bit later to see where she wants to go with that. She has some really good ideas, and I look forward to working with her. But that aside, I spent a good chunk of my winter break putting together a document that proposes a plan to get to Chancellor Montemagno's Vision 2025. One of the things that I'm concerned about is the amount of energy spent fighting the reorganization and not looking at the ways in which the reorganization itself has not engaged in the institutional planning common to every other institution, including the ones that the chancellor uses as his examples. So to that end, I have engaged in yet more institutional research to determine committees past and present which could be reactivated to gather the institutional data needed to make informed decisions about academic reorganization. To be clear, the one thing that I have found is that a lot of the attempts at academic reorganization or data gathering that have been executed by this institution in the past decade have stymied because they've been all aimed at prioritization and elimination. The literature on academic reorganization says that this is the worst way to do it ever. In fact, it argues against it. What you are supposed to do, and I can say this because I have decades of research to back it up, what you're supposed to do is engage in a process of data gathering to determine the weaknesses of the institution, why particular things are happening, and then draft a plan that seeks to address them. To be clear, the Program Change Committee, the Academic Program Prioritization Committee, the Graduate Tuition Stipend Committee, the Graduate Enrollment and Recruitment Task Force, and a whole bunch of other committees whose reports that I have unearthed have all have specific structures that could be retasked to find out, say, why we're losing students, why students aren't coming here, what can we do better if they eliminate this prioritization bit from it. So by next meeting, I should have something for you that proposes a path to 2020, which is basically 2 years of, or about a year and a half of institutional research, to generate a plan that can get us to the chancellor's goals at 2025 without provoking mass rebellion or breaking the institution as we know it. To be clear, this is something I suggested to the faculty on numerous occasions, and since faculty control the curriculum and have more access to institutional resources than I do, realistically this is something that should come from Faculty Senate. I'm unwilling to sit here and wait for them to do it, so I'm going to do it for them. So you guys will have that at your next meeting, which gets rid of grad school improvement plan. So we have covered everything except for compiled reorganization plan in new business, and I guess this is why you're all here. So again, over the winter break, and people tend to wonder how I get my dissertation done at all, I got the answers to the questions that you guys have been asking. What's going on with the reorg? Can he actually do this? How long would it actually take to do this? So on and so forth. I found the answers, and I'm going to give them to you. This document, or the two documents that I am about to present, are sitting on the GPSC website under the Academic Reorganization Resources tab. There are a pile of documents. The first one is the Chancellor's proposed reorg. The second one is the consolidated reorg that shows all of the program movements to date. And the third one, I believe, is what I'm about to go through with you right now. So, to be clear, it will take 162 days at the minimum from program proposal offering to submission to IBHE to engage in any kind of reorganization. Now I say 164 days because that is the minimum, as we will get to. What's on the screen behind me is the overall process of reorganization. This is every step that this institution and its administration will have to go through to approve a new program. So there's a bunch of really angry red text stuff here that some of you may or may not be able to see, but mostly it's the articles and the statutes that grant authority to the Board of Trustees and the President to approve new programs. For example, Article 2, Section 1 of the Board of Trustees statutes grant that the system president has the authority to approve all of these things. There is no timeline for how long it would take the president to review any proposed change offered from a campus. It can take anything from a month to an entire academic year, because there are no policy guidelines that say that this has to be done in a certain amount of time. It just has to be
Can you
done.
pause just for a second?
Yeah.
This is a packet, so don't separate them.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
Sorry.
So the thing of this is, so this slide one here is the overall process. This is 162 days plus or minus however long it takes the Board of Trustees and the President of the system to actually engage in a review of the program, plus or minus however long it takes IBHE or HLC to approve a process. To be clear, and I want this made abundantly clear, this does not apply to the law school except where concurrent degrees are concerned. A process of concurrence would apply if somebody had to create an RME or an NUI that would generate the degree that would be concurrent with the JD or whatever. So, to be fair, this does not quite apply to you guys because your programmatic development processes are completely different. Having said all that, this is what it looks like at the campus level, right? So this is everything that you would have to go through at the campus level, from program proposals, which includes the Article 9 process, which is what we're currently going through, all the way up to Faculty Senate and Graduate Council review, and then approval by the approval to submit this to the board. So first, the main impediment or the main block of time is the 90-day timeline established by the Faculty Association CBA, the Article 9 process that you've heard so much about. That clock expires, according to the administration, February 8th. So February 8th is the end of the 90 days, pending a 60% vote of the affected faculty to extend the timeline by another 30 days. If that happens, then you tack 30 days onto the time that we've got. So following the 90-day process, you get, I believe it's the 7 days for dissent, right? So you have 7 days for faculty to proffer a dissent to the administration, and then it moves to a vote, and so on and so forth. Once you get, the main thing that we are concerned about beyond the 90 days is grad council and faculty senate. So any program change at the graduate level has to come through graduate council. We have votes on graduate council. If graduate council does not approve it, it goes back to the faculty for revision discussion. Then it goes back to the to the associate provost for academic affairs, and the vice provost or the associate provost for administrative affairs. It's reworked, goes back to the faculty, votes on it, goes back to graduate council. Grad council kicks it back. Cycle starts all over again. Yes, yes indeed. I do not know how the chancellor expected to get this done by July, but there it is. To be clear, there's a minimum of 60 days for faculty senate and graduate council to approve any programmatic changes. If a programmatic change is both graduate and undergraduate, both bodies have to approve it. You can't just have one approve, say, a move of the Department of English to, I don't know, the College of Biological Sciences, and another one say no. That program does not move then. If it's just a graduate change, then only one body has to vote on it. Both bodies have to agree. If one body doesn't agree, then you're stuck.
So what's their current, I mean, on this new, what's their current perspective on this? Because previously, they'd been very unhappy about the whole matter. So what, in your opinion, or what you know, can you share with us that this looks like it may, what's the percentage that you think that this may pass?
0.
There you go.
You can anticipate faculty in affected schools, particularly in the humanities, to vote for the 30-day extension and then not to vote to approve this. Even if they do vote for the 30-day extension, if the clock runs out February the 8th, then they have a full 30 days after that to engage in reconsiderations, and this isn't even considering the pile of grievances filed by individual departments and the faculty association against the administration where this reorganization is concerned. That would drag out the process as well. And that's even before it gets to grad council and faculty senate, both of whom have passed resolutions saying they will not support the elimination of departments. All of the program change proposals say departments go away. So my assertion is good luck getting this through those bodies. Yes?
Does the chancellor have any authority to speed
No.
the process?
Not at all. He can't. So there are two things with that. One, if he tries to force it through, he's not only in violation of the faculty association contract, he's in violation of board of trustees policies, university policies, and if we're going to really be petty about it, Illinois state law. The IBHE wouldn't let him do it. AAUP would probably have something to say about it. There's a whole bunch of things that would happen if he tried to force it through, either by overriding faculty senate and graduate council or by overriding the 90-day plus 30-day extension of the Article 9 process. Those two things are set in stone as far as this process is concerned. So this whole campus process is 164 days plus or minus the amount of time that it takes faculty senate and graduate council to consider a proposal, plus or minus the amount of time it takes for proposals to cycle through the shuffle of APAC and VPAC. So basically this will take a long time, and that's before it gets to these people. This is the IBHE timeline. The IBHE timeline is bifurcated. You have administrative approval and you have full board approval. Full board approval is somewhere around 90 days at the minimum. 120 days if we're being real petty about this. Administrative approval is generally around 60 days, but this assumes that IBHE is available to do its job. Right now IBHE is kind of in flux, so most of this stuff might get stuck in IBHE's bureaucratic loop. The problem comes in where IBHE has to figure out what counts as an NUI and what counts as an RME. There is some question about this even at the system level, because an NUI is as defined on your sheet as is an RME. Most RMEs are pretty much, as grad council reps know, name changes, things like that, additions of concentrations, things like that. The creation of a whole new friggin' unit is an NUI. The creation of a whole new college is an NUI. The creation of a new college and then moving a unit into that new college, NUI. All of those are at least 90-day processes, and all of that has to be done. This process here has to be done before it can go to IBHE for any kind of administrator or full board approval. And since full board approval, that kind of stuff needs to be in the hands of IBHE 90 days before the full board meeting, and the next full board meeting is September 18th. There's not a lot of time to get that kind of thing done.
So where are you saying that this new structure that they're trying to do falls on the IBHE chart? Is it RME or is it NUI?
That's actually up for debate at the system level right now. Nobody knows, because of the ways in which these reorgs are going about. Like you're literally changing the names of programs, and in some cases, like say kinesiology, you're changing degree levels. Now it's unclear as to whether or not moving a EDD to a PhD constitutes a lateral movement within a degree level, which would be an administrative approval, or if it's the creation of a whole
So are you saying that this is a factual or a legal question?
This is it's both and, actually. So by law, NUI and RMEs have to be handled differently, but there is no law that says, or there is no strict burden of proof to demonstrate what's an NUI and what's an RME outside of the guidelines given by IBHE, and those are super loose. So it's kind of an ambiguous area. So for example, changing the name of a department to a division would be an RME. Changing the name of a department to a division and then moving that department to a new school would be an NUI. But moving a department within a college could be an RME, or it could be an NUI if that movement requires some other thing. So it's a big ball of wax, and I have asked folks on the IBHE where they would class some of these things. They don't even know. They said it would depend on what they got when they got it. So this is one of those, yeah, it depends kinds of answers. So that's where we're at with IBHE. Minimum 30 days, maximum 90 days, depending on the kind of approval you need to get this done. All right. So where do we fall on this? All right. So I have broken this out: undergraduate, graduate, and college department level. So I haven't done a thorough review of your operating papers. I'm going to charge you guys with doing that because many operating papers say that graduate students are to be represented on department committees. So where these things are being considered, you guys should theoretically have representation and be able to provide input on it. You can't vote in the official Article 9 votes, which are those things that basically say, we approve of doing X, Y, and Z, but you can provide input and you can be present for those votes. Graduate council reps have a little bit more authority because your vote literally counts for the approval of said RME or NUI when it gets there. At the college level, and I haven't done the review, but M has for me, at least where COLA is concerned, your votes count at the college level. If you are a graduate student representative to your college committee, your vote counts in terms of approving a particular plan. And thank you to M for doing that research, because literally the COLA Council is right now operating in violation of its own operating papers, because to my knowledge there is only one graduate student representative to the COLA Council. COLA Council is not supposed to be able to operate without full representation from undergraduate and graduate students. I have yet to say anything officially about that. But if we want to take an immediate vote on whether or not I can write a terse letter to Mira Komaraju demanding that she do her duty as dean of the college and request of departments the appointment of reps, I'm perfectly willing to do that. Yes.
Second.
Motion.
I'm fine with that, but can we clarify that, would it be Mira, or do we need to do it to ask the chair of COLA Council?
Nope, it would be, so the way that this would work is said message would go to Mira, Dave Delala, Lisette Chevalier, and the chair of COLA Council indicating these are these things.
I'm only asking so that we don't give Dean Komaraju labor that is not hers. Because, like, would that not mean that the graduate school would then be responsible for getting people to, okay.
No.
I trust you.
No.
So the student trustee gets to vote on?
Only if they have the vote. We do not have the vote. So
But Sam, does he?
he does not. The Edwardsville trustee would be able to vote. Presumably they do so in conversation with the Carbondale trustee, but I have no knowledge as to whether or not they communicate with one another. That said, M is largely responsible for the research for COLA Council. I intend to FOIA the operating paper for the rest of the colleges to figure out whether or not there's supposed to be graduate student representation on their committees and so on and so forth. But if you guys want to go ask your deans before I get the chance to FOIA them, go right ahead. I'm still going to FOIA them. So you had a motion, Derek.
Yeah, I'm a fan of following the rules of procedure. Right there, Trisley. I'll social that.
Second. So all in favor of me sending a note? All opposed? Abstentions? All right, so I get to send a note to Dean Komaraju, both of the associate provosts, and the chair of COLA Council. Before I move to the update to the reorg plan, are there any questions about the IBHE or the gigantic timeline that we have to go through in order to get any of this done? And to be clear, it's my opinion that while the administration might think that 162 days is the minimum amount of time all of this can get done in so that it can be sent to IBHE, the reality on the ground is it's closer to 220. Okay, reorg time. Oh joy, here we go. All right, so I'm going to run through this at a moderate pace. So this is our current academic program structure. The green is all of the stuff that has been, that the chancellor views as distributed from its inappropriate location. This slide has been provided by the chancellor in his December 13th presentation, the infamous Yugo one, and is used after he provided it to everybody. So this is our current academic organization.
And what was green?
Green is the units that have been moved, or that the chancellor has identified as being in inappropriate locations. They will be collected into an appropriate school and college.
So they're gonna move, essentially.
There is no they're gonna. These are things that the chancellor wants to move. And that'll become clear in when we get to the more granular level.
Yeah.
They're gonna move.
Well, not if certain faculty have anything to say about it, but, and I feel comfortable saying that. So this is our current organization. This is version 1, right? You can see the addition of new programs. One of the things that I want to point out is bioinformatics is apparently the only new program in the integrated biological sciences on version 1, which is weird, as we will see. And there are a whole spate of new programs, right? You can see the organization of engineering and so on and so forth. This is version 2, or this is version 1 presented October. This is version 2, November, right? There are noticeable differences in CLES.
Can you tell everyone what the color coding are? Because the copy that we have doesn't have all of that in it.
Yeah, on these were.
Really?
So,
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's fine. I'll have to fix that. All
Shows
right.
up in later slides.
Yellow is the, yellow are new programs. Green are those programs that have been collected to their appropriate locations. So again, yellow is new programs. Green are programs collected to their appropriate locations. Yellow is new programs. Green are programs collected to their appropriate location. You can see considerably more yellow on version 2, which is something that faculty didn't catch until I pointed it out. For example, Biosciences now has molecular biochemistry and molecular biology, bioinformatics, neuroscience, right? I don't understand why neuroscience was previously unlisted as a new program and is now listed as a new program. I will endeavor to find out.
We lost the police academy.
Oh, no, we didn't. It's still there. It's the Public Safety Institute. We did not lose the police academy. No. All right. All right. So, and this is where Yep. And this is where stuff gets real. This is version 3 as it stands, right? I assume this is the one with the yellow, the green, and the purple.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The purple are programs whose movements have been proposed and are under discussion. The yellow is new programs. The green are programs that have been collected to new areas. This is accurate as of the 21st, I believe. Yep. This is the 21st one. Yes.
Oh, health and human sciences is like.
What did you say purple is again?
Purple are programs that are under discussion for movement. Some of them have completed the discussions, others have not. I will be reaching out to Associate Provost Dalala to get an answer to these questions, but this is what we know right now. There are a couple of other programs that are rumored to be being moved, but faculty are holding them fairly close to the vest, and I will get to that in a second. I'm not pleased by that, but I will get to that in a second.
Will you send this out to us?
Yes, it's on the GPSC website.
Oh, sorry, you said that already.
Yep, I made sure of that. It's on the GPSC website. So, all right, here we go. So this is the original proposed, school college alignment. This is version 3. I don't know where version 2 went. Nobody seems to be able to find it. This is version 4. Purple is under discussion, right? To be clear, anything with purple is stuff that I have created because I went and twisted arms and got information. There are things that they have to tell me by virtue of GPSC's policy-given authority. So there you have it. So this is the current layout.
So is that the name of the school? Science, Technology, Transportation, Engineering, and Mathematics is the name of the school?
Yep. Yep, as far as I know it. Those are under discussion too, because some of
So
the...
is that going to be in a separate building?
Star that one.
Nope.
They're just going to go together.
Look, I mean,
Like, so they're-
I didn't come up with a name. This name was, to be clear, faculty in that college had a conversation with the chancellor, I think December 11th, to consider where they're going to go. Some faculty are not pleased about it, and we're going to get to that too.
So wait, so I'm so confused right now. So they just took all the names of the schools and just put it together. Like, I'm so confused right now. Is that what they did? Because they didn't change the name.
I cannot. All right, hold on a second. I cannot comment on any potential or actual names of colleges, schools, whatever. Those are also up for discussion, according to Associate Provost Dalala. So the names as represented here might not be the actual names as we get, or as they become like actual stuff. So, this is what I've been told by the administration. So that mouthful of a name is what I was told. All right. Swear to God. This is the first version of ag. This is the second version of ag. You see the difference here?
Go back.
First version,
Oh, yeah.
second version.
Number 2.
Yep. The reason why I'm doing this chronologically is so that you can see the difference a month makes. Third version. Right? So the third version is relatively unchanged from the second version. Fourth version of business and first version of business and analytics. You note healthcare management is there. This was hotly contested by faculty in healthcare management. You also note that sport administration is there too. Next version.
What was opposed about healthcare management?
Healthcare management is not a management-related field. It refers to running a hospital and the various administrative tasks that go with it. It's not a business field.
I don't know. That was my undergrad, and it was strictly business.
Where did you go to undergrad?
Eastern Michigan University.
Okay, EMU's management
Sorry.
programs are aligned towards a business structure. They generate very good actuarial types running hospitals.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to extend the
That's
conversation.
fine.
I was just curious.
I anticipated similar questions, so I Googled universities that have similar style programs and similar program alignments. Yours came up. So there's a distinction in the pedagogical focus of healthcare management here and at your institution.
So what is this then? It's like health policy? Not.
A whole bunch of stuff. It includes some elements of healthcare systems and information systems,
Like
things like
ethics and stuff, I'm assuming.
Yep, there's
So
that.
it's recreation professions.
I cannot answer the question. You cannot ask me specific programmatic questions because I don't know the answer.
Explain squash.
No, it is not. It is. All right, let me put it this way. If you have a question as to what a given programmatic or what a given academic focus of a program is, you would be best served to email the chair of that department or the dean of that college. Unless I have direct communication of it, I don't know it.
Unless it doesn't exist.
Unless it doesn't exist.
Just wait and see.
Then the program talks about like camping and like.
Come on, guys, we need to get through this.
In that
All right, College of Business version 2, you have healthcare management still. Version 3 is the
drop the profession.
Yes, we
'Cause
drop
it makes sense, yeah.
rec professions and nobody knows where it's going.
They made that up, but okay.
No, it exists, but nobody knows where it's going.
That's to see if anyone noticed change.
Well, nobody noticed until I pointed it out. Seriously.
It's currently attached with the public health and rec.
Oh, okay.
So that's what it's currently. Yeah,
That
so
makes
that's
sense.
what they combined that, I believe, like last year.
Thank you,
To
Bria.
like run the recreation
Well, because
center?
they were losing faculty and stuff, so they just combined two groups to save, I guess, money of some sort. So it's public. It was just public health. I know it's public health and recreation professionals.
So anyway, version 3, the new version that we've got here. You see this purple thing where it is like public health or whatnot? The purple one here, public administration, has been proposed by political science faculty. Some faculty in political science want a public administration program in business and analytics, which would leave other political science faculty in their current location while these faculty do what it is they're going to do. That is the, this was a faculty-driven proposal. It's a RME from the faculty. This wasn't driven by the administration, but it is presumably in response to the administration's offering of program changes proposals, right? So this is the one of the first new actual programs that I have heard that has been proposed by faculty. All right, so this is version 1 of the School of Education. This is version 2 of the School of Education. Nothing has changed. College of Engineering, Applied Science is the gigantic one, right? This is version 1. And where is Representative Smith?
STEM?
This is the STEM one.
Oh, this is money. This is money.
Our engineering rep stepped out.
You can come back to it.
All right, I'm gonna go through this and then we can we'll talk about it later. So this is the first version, right? It's obsolete, but you can see the sheer number of new programs proposed here.
Yeah.
Second version, the police academy goes to humanities. Whole bunch, still new programs, right? You have three colleges here. Current version. Yes, you now have 4 colleges because computer science presented an argument to the chancellor that they need to get a new, they need to be in their own school. And that's what they got. So computer science got computer science and machine learning. School of Physical Sciences is currently a contested territory because mathematics doesn't want to be there. Math is not a physical science. Where math would go is unknown. It might go to its own school. We don't know. And then you have the School of Transportation and School of Applied Technology. Again, that came from a December 11th conversation between faculty and the chancellor. So this is what the new structure looks like. To be clear, if computer science gets this, they go from being a department to being a school and being able to propose all kinds of new stuff under their ambit.
Lucky them.
This is College of Health and Humanities. Recall how all the green stuff was units collected to their appropriate location under the chancellor's perspective. This is the second version. I don't know why these are not green anymore, because on the third version, which was presented in December during the infamous Hugo presentation, they're green again. And this is the new version, right? So one of the things that happened was healthcare management goes to the School of Health Services, where it ideally should belong. This was something that we just recently found out about. And it answers the question as to where healthcare management is going to go. We still don't know where recreation professions is going. All right. And now for COLA, the elephant in the room. This is version 1 of COLA. We only get one new program, landscape architecture. This is version 2 of COLA. Now we get the School of Homeland Security, which means we get cybersecurity, forensic scientists, the Public Safety Institute, and landscape architecture. This is version 3. This one? Version 3, we still get all the same stuff, but Africana Studies gets to go to the School of Humanities, Comm Studies goes to Media and Performing Arts, and WUGS, because people keep asking me about it, goes to the School of Multicultural, and so on and so forth. To be clear, all of our multicultural programs are going there, except for Africana Studies, so Latino Studies, Peace Law Studies, all of those programs go over to the School of Social Sciences and Multicultural Studies. So a point of literature about this. There is a large body of institutional organizational research in higher education concerning this kind of a move. They impolitely term it the ghettoization of marginalized programs, right? This, again, best practices say that unless you're generating interdisciplinary centers to support these programs, you should not stick them in a school all alone to die. I've heard neither hide nor hair of what kind of support these programs are going to get. And to be clear, the only reason I'm making a point of this is moving all these units into one location without providing essential support services for them is a problem, especially when only 5 of those units offer, or 4 of those units offer majors. So you have 4 units that offer majors, 5 units, or the remaining units do not offer majors, only one of them are, and WUGS offers a grad certificate. So that, and there are any psych folks in the room? Somebody go ask psych what they're doing with regards to moving. I'm just going to throw that. DE, you're in the back?
Yeah.
Send psych an email and ask if they're moving. Because if I do it, it'll be interesting. But this is the last of the slides. Last of the slides. There are 26 slides here which represent changes across from October to the present month. This is accurate up to today. And I assume the Chancellor will probably put out some other variation of the reorg plan that either makes all of this obsolete or whatever. I have given this to the Faculty Association. I have given this to the Grad Union. I have not given this to Faculty Senate. I will give it to Grad Council. Although I'm fairly certain Faculty Senate will get its hands on it because I have given it to the Faculty Association and there is intermixing. To be clear, I am presenting all of this information for one reason. No more secrets, right? So the way that this works, at least from my position from here on out, if I find out about a program movement, I'm going to tell you guys. Because the more secrets we keep from one another across departmental lines, the more possibilities exist for departments to get screwed. So let me give you an example in STEM, and this is why Rep. Smith should have been here. So, no, this is not the other one. The big one. Where did it go? there it is, STEM, right? The situation with mathematics. The situation with mathematics came about because in the previous version, math was...
Physical sciences and computers.
Yeah, physical sciences and computers, right? So physical sciences and computers all had their one location. When computer science got their deal, they left math in physical sciences. Again, math is not a physical science. This is what happens when faculty do not talk to each other. We are not faculty. We are students. It's our job to ensure the representation of graduate student opinion in institutional planning, organization, and student welfare. It's our job to let one another know when something weird like this is happening so that we're not blindsided. And I don't suppose there are any math grad students in the room? Well, damn. Okay. So no more secrets. If I find out something, I will tell you guys. I will probably send an email saying, hey, that big org chart that's on the GPSC website, I have updated it with the following new movements. This, to be clear, this is probably in opposition to what most faculty would recommend. Playing this close to the vest tends to ensure that faculty get to move in ways that they want to, but it also, in my view, plays into any administrative reorganization that they want. Unless we're talking with one another, there is a high chance that certain movements will disadvantage some programs relative to others, and if we are committed to, say, the survival of the graduate education enterprise, because there are so few grad programs on campus and we barely have support as it is, no more secrets. If I find out something, I will tell you guys, and it will be on you to advocate for yourselves or get a rationale. Questions? Abdul Samad and then M.
Yeah, I was wondering about Cecil. I couldn't see it under column. What is taking place with
I have no idea, and I will check the program inventory.
Because I have heard like a number of rumors. One of them is moving Cecil under CIE, Center for International Education. And some people said, oh no, it will stay as it is under linguistics and COLA. And I have heard also like those centers, they will make them together under one school or college.
I don't know. I will try to find an answer to that question for you. I do have the program inventory somewhere, but I don't think I have it on this computer. But I will find out. I will do my very best.
Thanks.
M.
Not a question, but a comment. Since this reorganization has been announced, every single constituency meeting I've been to, or every meeting of a different constituency group I've been to, they've said the same thing, that there needs to be change on campus. There have been attempts to do so in the past that keep getting blocked. And your choice to collect all this information, centralize it, and make it widely available to promote transparency around the university is, I think, a tremendous impetus towards that goal, and is going to hold a lot of these different constituency groups to kind of put their money where their mouth is and actually try to follow through beyond just blocking what the chancellor is doing, and maybe try to make good on some of those positive changes they've been talking about wanting to see. So I wanted to thank you for doing this and for being as involved in the various groups you are around campus.
Right. So yeah. Other questions? Katie, did you have one?
No, I was just, I was wondering what was going on upstairs. That's
Nobody knows.
So we're given this information, what can be done?
All right, I was waiting for that. So the question, so one of the things that I intended to say to you guys at this meeting is, one of the things that I'm going to be pushing, at least out of this body, is no criticisms without a potential solution. The only problem that I've presented in outlining this is secrets, right? The fact that units are negotiating just basically in secret and without transparency to other units within their given area. My solution to that is to tell you guys to tell your faculty that if you guys or if the faculty are negotiating to move somewhere, they need to let you guys know so that you know what the heck is up. My other solution to that is for me to basically interrogate the provost every chance I get. What you guys can do is the revised GPSC compiled response. The reason why I asked you guys for SWOT analyses is so that you can propose things that would improve your graduate programs while making clear to the administration the kinds of damage that the proposed reorganization would do to it. This is one of the strongest things that you can do, particularly insofar as the initial document that we put together has been referenced by faculty and staff and those administrators who are willing to admit it as probably one of the best responses to the proposed reorganization that we've got. The other thing that you guys can do is take this information and give it to your constituents. Talk to your fellow graduate students, talk to your constituents, talk to departments that you don't see represented around this table and get them in the room. If I have to go to them myself and explain it to them, I will. I don't like doing it, but I will. Because I really need to write my dissertation, but you know. Beyond that, if you have, or beyond that, when I do send you guys things like, say, a proposed plan to engage in data collection for sensible reorganization, please send it to your folks, generate commentary, talk about it. Basically, essentially, the best thing you guys can do is your jobs as GPSC reps. The other thing you can do is participate on committees, either university-wide or at the department level. Correct folks when they have misinformation. Maintain communication with your chairs, directors, whomever, so that, again, like I said, no more secrets, right? Because if one of us falls, the rest of us will soon follow, as is the case with math, which is stuck in physical sciences despite not being a physical science by any stretch of the word. So these are the things that you can do. If you have, say, ideas for what needs to be done, you can send them to us. If you have no idea whether or not you as a graduate student are supposed to have representation on your departmental committees, you can ask your chair for the operating papers. You can ask the dean of your college for the operating papers. You can report violation of those operating papers to me, and I will do my best to hold them accountable. It's not a fun job, but it's something that needs to be done. These are all things that you guys can do to ensure that our voices are represented in reorganization.
As part of taking up that labor, I'm willing to volunteer if anyone wants to volunteer with me to look at the departments that are not represented here and try and do some groundwork of like making contact with them and talking to them about the perceptions and maybe gathering information from them and considering getting them to have a representative here. So Diane, I think could you give me a list of the departments? You don't even have to do the labor of figuring out which ones aren't here. Just send me the ones that are, and I'll.
I had a conversation about doing that labor.
Perfect. If anyone wants to volunteer to do that. My name is Lauren, again.
Nice to meet you.
Talk to me after the meeting, but make it fast because I'm tired.
One final note before you guys start packing up and I start letting you go. To be clear, I'm not necessarily opposed to reorganization. There's some things at this institution that needs to be reorganized. But like I told the community members tonight, this reorganization is one, short-sighted, and two, amounts to an infrastructure change when our problems are not necessarily with infrastructure. In this reorganization, there is no plans to improve, say, graduate student support services. There is a plan to appoint a recruitment person for undergrad, but there is no plan to, say, engage with any of the evidence collected from the 2008 Campus Climate Survey, or the 2011 Campus Climate Lens Report, or the 2005 Graduate Stipend Report, or the 2008 Enrollment and Retention Report, which, by the way, recommended that we have an 84% retention rate by 2018, when our current rate is 42%. There has been generally no real addressing of the other issues aside from, say, the academic infrastructure. And to be clear, a curriculum does not exist without a context. A college does not exist without a context. And if we don't have the necessary support structures for the 15,000 students we have right now, I struggle to see how we're going to support 8,500 students, much less 300 PhDs a year. This is just untenable from a student support standpoint, and to be clear, my perspective is that any reorganization, if it happens, should be based on data gathered about the institution. It should suit the institutional context, and it should come with plans to improve or enhance student support structures. Because it's one thing to get more students here and provide them with the necessary tools to succeed. It's another thing to get them here and then let them fail. Questions?
Yeah, the last one, is there any happy, I don't know if it's happy, updates about, say, the GA contracts or renewing?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, good.
So the administration apparently has backed off of their whole no GAs of instructors of record. Now it's down to no MAs as instructors of record, which is not much better because there are programs on this campus that offer terminal MAs, and there are grad students who teach in those programs. If they're going to give a blanket no MAs as instructors of record thing, that's bullshit. Point blank. To be clear, the problem with brand new grad students teaching courses is not a graduate student problem. It's an institutional problem because we simply do not have the faculty capacity to, one, provide the practicums necessary to get GAs up to, standards of teaching, and two, for faculty to teach some of our distro requirements. To be clear, I've had 10 students in my office saying, hey, look, I'm going to be stuck here an extra year because the course that I need to take is not offered until spring of next year. How do I extend my GA-ship? To be clear, all you need to do is get your department to sign an exemption. But that is a problem we should not be having, right? If faculty cannot offer distro requirements because we can't hire new faculty, be it tenure track or NTT, we've got a problem. And the solution is not to start axing programs. The solution is to start looking at why we have the problem in the first place. And I can tell you, it's not with the department chairs or the department structure. I will make available all of the reports that I just referenced on the GPSC website. I will also make available the letter from Dave Dalala concerning the time card things, and every other document that does not say confidential on it that I get from this administration, because like I said, no more secrets. If we're going to do this and we're going to do it right, we need to do it in full transparency. And to be clear, this is going to make some folks mad. Questions?
Is it helpful for you if people volunteer to do some of the research?
If you want to do the research for your own units and then bring it back to me, that would be awesome. What I'm trying to do is not to have GPSC as the sole authority over these things, but to ensure that GPSC can act as a clearinghouse for questions of graduate student representation and institutional organization, which is our job, literally by Board of Trustees policy. So if you guys want to do that research for your own departments, your own colleges, send it back to me. I will create yet another tab on the GPSC website where all this stuff will be collected so that there's a one-stop shop for you guys to look at. Same thing with academic misconduct policies and all that other stuff. No more secrets.
Can I just make a suggestion to everyone? I think that it would be helpful, probably not only for John to get stuff done, but also for the image of GPSC if we're all taking part in the research, because currently those of us who are most visible on campus, particularly John, often this research is framed as like, well, John did this thing, and it would be helpful if we had a united front as graduate students and all participating in this. And also so that we are able to inform our chairs and things like that, because I found that the administrators at the lower level, like chairs, often don't have the same amount of information that we do because John is doing the research. And so if we all participate in that, it makes a huge difference across the entire campus. Just a thought. So.
All right, before we adjourn, quick announcements. The Black Faculty Staff Council sent me a call for proposals for their diversity conference. I got itineraries for employment relations officers at this on campus. And if you guys are hosting an event in lieu of a calendar, because apparently I set up a widget to make the calendar work, but then when the university got weird about websites, it broke the widget, so the calendar doesn't work anymore. If you guys are having events, send them to me a week in advance, and I will pester you guys with emails, which I apologize for. So you will probably get bi-weekly GPSC emails, one containing here's some grad events, the other containing here's the agenda, where you guys will be stuck here for another 2 hours. I try not to keep you guys here for that long, but you know. Other than that, I have no additional announcements. Anybody have any announcements? No. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? All right, we are adjourned at 10 o'clock.
Oh, there's t-shirts. Don't forget the t-shirt.
Diana, give me a medium.